study Torah together. Very grateful. Thank you, Don, for starting us on. Shabbat Shalom, Rebecca and Marie and Brad and Diane and Mara and Cindy. I love seeing you. And Eric and David and Pnina. Shalom, shalom, and Shabbat shalom. And I see Howard and Mara. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, thank you. So, as always, we are starting our class. I hope everybody is doing well and you had wonderful Thanksgiving. And just the attitude of gratitude, I think it is so important. And of course, as you know, in Judaism, we have a prayer of thanksgiving for everything, right? So from the moment you wake up to the last breath you take. And we, as good Jews, ought to find 100 times the opportunity to say thank you, God, and grateful for every day. Just imagine, right? In some cultures, we have to create a day of gratitude. And yet in Judaism, it's every day, all day, throughout the year, throughout the years. So I think it is such a phenomenal attitude towards life, really, right? To have that sense of thankfulness. And literally, as the word is, to say thank you because you're full of gratitude, thankfulness. So again, Bruchim Habaim and welcome. So good to see you again. So we are in the Torah portion of Vayetze, which is chapter 28. So verse 10, chapter 28, verse 10. And while you're looking at it, I have a house guest, so I'm unable to go and get the usual Torah that I cannot give you pages now. So I'm going to give you just just the chapters and verses today. So it's chapter 28, verse 10. All right. So we're going to start with, hi, Lynn. Good to see you. Yeah. Good. Thank you. We're going to start with the blessing of studying Torah together. So together, Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu
melech
asher
kitshanu
b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who hallows us with the mitzvah and the mitzvot, really in plural, and commanded us to engage in the study of the Torah, and I would say every day. And if you don't have time to study the Torah every day, open the Torah portion and just pick out a verse and go to work, go to do whatever you want. Just pick out a verse so you can think about it on your way when you're up and when you are around, when you're in the city, when you are in the village, wherever you are, study the word, study the lesson. So I will say also the introduction. I think of God as continually flowing fountain of blessings and holy teachings. As a person with free will, I can choose to align myself with God's wisdom or to try to hide from the profound teachings that could guide me daily. When I say a blessing with sincerity and study the words of Torah, I am choosing, once again, to align myself with the ever-flowing goodness of God's love. So, as we know, when uh, when we pray, we talk to God, and when we study Torah, God is talking to us, right? So I'm going to give you the overall view of this Torah portion, just in case you had not had the opportunity to review it because of the weekend. And then I'll tell you what I choose to talk about directly today, what I've chosen. So in this Torah portion, Vayetze, Jacob leaves his hometown of Beersheba and journeys to Haran. On the way, he encounters the place, Hamakom, and sleeps there, dreaming of a ladder connecting heaven and earth, with angels climbing and descending on it. God appears and promises that the land upon which he lies will be given to his descendants. In the morning, Jacob rises, and the stone on which he laid his head on, as creating it as a monument and altar, pledging that he will make the house of God right in that place. In Haran, Jacob stays with and works for his uncle Laban, or Laban, tending Laban's sheep. Laban agrees to give his younger daughter Rachel, when Jacob loves, in marriage in return for 7 years of labor. But on the wedding night, Laban gives him his elder daughter Leah instead. A deception Jacob discovers only in the morning. Jacob marries two a week later, after agreeing to work another 7 years for Laban, and Leah gives birth to 6 sons: Reuben, Simon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun, and a daughter, Dinah, while Rachel remains barren. Rachel gives Jacob her handmaid, Bilhah, as a wife to bear children in her stead, and 2 more sons are born, Dan and Naphtali. Leah does the same thing with her handmaid, Zilpah, who gives birth to Gad and Asher. Finally, Rachel's prayers are answered, and she gives birth to Joseph. Jacob has now been in Haran for 14 years, and he wishes to return home. But Laban persuades him to remain, now offering him sheep in return for his labor. Jacob's prospers despite Laban's repeated attempts to dwindle him. After 6 years, Jacob leaves Haran in stealth, fearing that Laban would prevent him from leaving with the family and property with which he labored for. Laban pursues Jacob, but he warned by God in a dream not to harm him. Laban and Jacob makes a pact on Mount Gad El, attended to by a pile of stones, and Jacob proceeds to the Holy Land, where he is met by an angel. So this is a pactful, let me drink a little bit. This is a very pactful Torah portion. Obviously, a lot to talk about. We can talk about the cheating of Haran, of Jacob. We can talk about the purpose from him leaving. We can talk about dreams, right? when Jacob dreamed that the ladder is going up and down, on the meaning of dreams. We can talk about love, and Jacob loved Rachel, and he said to his father Laban, I love her, and I will serve you, 7 years of Rachel for your younger daughter. Then we can talk about marriage. We can talk about deception, right? That Laban said to Jacob, it is not done in our place to give a younger before the firstborn, right? We can talk about birth, that all the handmaids are taking action in here, right? And finally, of course, when Jacob tells Rachel, a very heartwarming and yet very sad, am I taking God's place, who held from you the fruit of your womb, when she prays to God and nothing happens? And then she accuses Jacob. And Jacob kind of, with his love to Rachel, he tells her, what can I do? I'm doing everything I can. So a lot of wonderful, wonderful topics. So anybody wants to say something before we start? My dog is with me. He has a cough. I'm going to ask him to come, sweetheart. Excuse me 1 second. All right. So I'd like to first, before we even start, it's very interesting that it says the Torah portion's name is Vayetze. Vayetze, and he went out. He went out, like he's not in a hurry, that he's going out. But looking at a few pages before, turn a little bit before chapter 28. I'd like you to go to chapter 27, verse 42. Chapter 27, verse 20, 34, 42. Anybody would like to read that?
Can you repeat what chapter, please, and I'll read it?
Yeah, thank you. Chapter 27, verse 42. Just a little bit before we start the Torah portion, because I'd like you to see the background, and that he's not really going out, he's running away. So what is the purpose of him running away?
27, verse 41. Now Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him. And Esau said to himself, the days of mourning for my father are approaching. Then I will kill my brother Jacob. But the words of Esau, her older son, were told to Rebekah. So she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said to him, behold, your brother Esau comforts himself by planning to kill you. Now,
Hold on 1 second. Thank you, Lynn. Interestingly to say that Rebecca, it's very important here that the Torah is noticing that Rebecca heard that Esau wants to kill him. And then the Torah is mentioning that Esau, her oldest son, and then a few words later, it says Jacob, her youngest son. What do we mean by it? But I mean, we all know these are the twins, right? That were already fighting in her womb, right? So what is the purpose of them, the Torah indicating that this is Esau is her oldest son and Jacob is her youngest son? And younger son, what do you mean? They're the same age. They're twins.
minutes apart, perhaps.
Good. What else? Why is the Torah, it has to indicate that at all? is the youngest son is the more timid one, and being a younger son, he needs more protection. Hi, Marina. Good to see you. Does the younger son need more protection because he's younger? What is the purpose of the Torah? We know they're twins. It's just a few seconds between one and the other, right? Go ahead. Something to ponder on. Go on.
Now therefore, my son, obey my voice. Arise, flee to Laban, my brother, in Haran, and stay with him a while until your brother's fury turns away, until your brother's anger turns away, and he forgets what you have done to him. Then I will send and fetch you from there. Why should I be bereft of both of you in one day?
Go on.
Then Rebekah said to Isaac, I am weary of my life because of the Hittite woman.
Okay, so hold on one second. So you see there, she is being very deceptive, because we are going to talk about the deceptions, right? In our Torah portion. So she's already, they're coming from the same place, from the same household, and deception is a major key, major unifier in a negative way in this household, because she's deception. She's saying to her son one thing: you should go out and run away from your brother until he's no longer angry with you, and he forgets about it, right? Which is another, how can you forget taking your inheritance away, right? But here she's turning to Yitzchak and says to him the big drama: I don't want to live anymore. Oh, he's going to marry somebody else from this area. Two different reasons. Again, deception. Go on. Thank you.
I am weary of my life because of the Hittite women. If Jacob marries one of the Hittite women, such as these, one of the women of the land, what good will my life be to me?
The big drama, right? You imagine, oh, Rebecca, oh, God, oh, what's going to happen, right? Yeah, the big drama. I don't want to live anymore if he's going to marry somebody from this land. Yeah, go on.
Then Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him, You shall not marry one of the Canaanite women. Arise, go to Padan Aram to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take as wife from there one of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and multiply you, that you may become a company of peoples. May he give the blessing of Abraham to you and to your descendants with you, that you may take possession of the land of your sojournings, which God gave to Abraham. Thus Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Padan Aram to Laban, the son of Bethuel, the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob's and Esau's mother.
Excellent. This is good. Just finish up, because I think the few words here are important. Finish up the rest of the page.
Finish the rest of it?
Please.
Now Esau saw Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Padan Aram to take a wife from there. And that as he blessed him, he charged him, You shall not marry one of the Canaanite women. And that Jacob had obeyed his father and his mother and gone to Padan Aram. So when Esau saw that the Canaanite women did not please Isaac's father, Esau went to Ishmael and took 2 wives, besides the wives he had. Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth.
Yes, excellent. So we thank you so much for reading that. So we see here that again, Jacob is blessing, a blessing. We hear that Yitzchak is blessing, and Ishmael hears it. Again, he is deprived of a blessing. He hears what his father is blessing, his twin brother, and so he goes and he marries somebody else. In Hebrew, her name is Machlat, which means Machala, which means sickness. So it's already a negative attitude towards the wife that Ishmael is taking. And then he is his wife. Our portion begins with Vayetze Yaakov Beersheva, and Jacob went out of Beersheva. Like nothing, there is no drama in the background. He's just walking out. He's walking out from his parents' home. Vayetze, and he went out. Really? What is it all about? He's running away from his brother who wants to kill him. Right? His father again blesses him to go away. The reason the mother, Rebecca, is sending him back to her own home, right? To run away so he's not being killed. So our Torah portion begins already with the first word, Vayetze, is really incorrect. It should have been Vayivrach, and he escaped his home. And not, leisurely he walks out. He goes to another land. You understand my dilemma? You understand what's going on here? Already in the first word. Okay, I just wanted you to be aware how the Torah is kind of painting in pink the attitude of the Torah towards who is good and who is not good. So obviously Esau, from the very beginning, the poor thing, from the very beginning, he's the hairy one, the red one, the one that hunts, right? So the Torah is describing this Esau in a very negative way. Jacob, the timid, the younger son who needs protection of his mommy, and he goes away. He just walks out of the home and goes to his mommy's hometown to find a wife, a good wife, like she is, like her mother, the deceptive one. You are aware of how the Torah paints our heroes in a very positive way. But we need to be critical thinkers and say, do they really deserve to be painted in a positive way? What have they done to deserve to be painted in that way? But we are descendants of Jacob, and therefore he has to be painted in a positive way by all the Torah interpreters. You understand my point? Yes, thank you. Okay. So who would like to read a little bit?
I have a question. I find it interesting that Esau knew about Ishmael, that they were both misaligned from the core of the family, yet Esau somehow knew about Ishmael. I find that really curious.
His grandfather, of course he knows. Yeah. And the son of Abraham, right? Ishmael. So obviously, but again, which way the interpreters are leaning us to paint them in pink, but again, as critical thinkers, we need to say and question, do they really deserve it? Good question, Rebecca. Okay, so Jacob is getting out of going out, and I'd like to tackle the word as we come to it. Who would like to read the beginning of our portion? 28, chapter 28, verse 10. Please. Come on, anybody? Thank you, Harvey. Welcome.
Okay. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. He came upon a certain place and stopped there for the night, for the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of that place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place. He had a dream. A stairway was set on the ground, and its top reached to the sky, and angels of God were going up and down on it. And the Lord was standing beside him, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, the God of Isaac. The ground on which you are lying I will give to you and to your offspring. Your descendants shall be as dust of the earth. You shall spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south.
Harvey?
All the
okay. I just like to touch on a few keywords here. And God is standing upon him. I love. He's standing upon him as God stands on top of Jacob. And it's interesting. It's interesting that we say on top of him. And of course, Rashi interprets that as to save him, to keep him. And then God says, introduces himself. God introduces himself to Jacob. Who am I? I am the God of Abraham, your father, and Yitzhak, and I'm the one who has promised them a few promises, and I'm promising it to you. Why does God have to introduce himself? Doesn't he know God? Was God in their tent ever? Was God in, talking to anyone? Why God has to introduce himself to Jacob?
It wasn't, maybe it wasn't an introduction. Hi, Mimi. Maybe it wasn't an introduction, but a warning or an observation or a reminder of God's importance
in his life.
Yeah, don't forget who I am.
Okay, so we know the very first commandment also, that the commandment is, I am your God. So we can ask the same question. Yeah. Why do he have to introduce himself to the rest of the world? I am your God who took you out of Egypt.
Don't forget, I'm your father. Don't forget, I'm your mother. You behave.
Right. So it could be, thank you for this, a very good comment. Brad, I see your hand. 1 second. So,
well, is this somehow related to the fact that we're in a dream? So this is a dream sequence. So it's not necessarily a direct relationship between him and God, but it's through the intermediary or the filter of a dream. So,
okay, but we know there is a dialogue throughout the dream. So the dream all of a sudden becomes as if a reality. The communication is a reality, as if.
As if, but it's still within a dream.
Right. So just to continue what Fern suggested, is that he's being introduced in such a way to show the connection that it's not only with you that I make this commitment. I made this commitment with your grandfather, with Abraham. I made the commitment. So I want you to know that I remember my commitment to your father, through your grandfather, to your father, to you. This is my commitment stands. Because
it's the opposite. It's actually the opposite of what I said, or the corollary of what I said, that you need to remember, but I remember too.
Excellent. Both are correct. It's not one or the other. Both are correct, because it is very important to show the connection, the genealogy of my commitment to you, to your grandfather, to your father, and to you. And it's not anything new. It's something that I committed, and I'm continuing to commit, no matter what happens along the way. Thank you, Fern. I'm going to give Eric and then David, and I'll come back to you.
Hope, isn't it interesting? The angels come initially from Jacob, not the other way around, because the opening bid was from Jacob, not God. Isn't that something? You know what I'm talking about? In the bridge game, you have the opener has the lead in the game, but I think Jacob got the lead of the family. That one instant that Jacob got through the birthright, he got the leadership of the family, whether it was weak or not. Then he turned strong at the end. Maybe the young son was very eminently qualified in the Torah because
Yeah.
because because this Torah is based on like a little civil service test. You always take a little test before, like Moses passed a test to become the trustee of the Jewish people. Whether he liked it or not, God appointed him as the trustee of the Jewish people, and and Jacob was the progenitor of the tribes. Because I see when you said the mothers were different because and each one had their own individual traits, which were used by the Israelites to survive. Thank you very much.
Good comment. David?
Did God make the same promise about the descendants, like the dust of the earth or numerous of the stars, to Isaac, the same one he made to Abraham and is now making to Jacob?
It's the same, but yet it's slightly different, but it's the same because Lifnei mi ani omed, before whom am I standing? And each one of them has a little different character and different, I would say, emotional needs, emotional connection to God. And therefore, it's slightly different, but it is the same. Yes. Thank you for that. Brad?
Well, what strikes me is so much later in the Torah, everything is conditional. It's if you do this, then I will do that. And this is unconditional here. God is saying, I am going to do this for you. It's unconditional, which is so different from the way the story develops.
Right. Because with Jacob, it's very, very conditional. And we'll talk about this in a minute. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Who was reading? So he stood upon him and he is giving it again. He reminding Jacob that everything that I've promised, I'm going to give to you and your descendants. Verse 14, please.
Your descendants shall be as the dust of the earth. You shall spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All the families of the earth shall bless themselves by you and your descendants. Remember, I am with you. I will protect you wherever you go. I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you.
Interesting, right? So this is a reaffirmment, a very strong, as Brad suggested, very strong commitment to Jacob, and not only for now, but also for the future, what's going to happen in the future. And I promise you that all the nations of the earth will be blessed through you, right? Not through the seeds of Ishmael, but through the seeds of Jacob. Not through the seeds of Esau, but through the seeds of Abraham and Jacob, Isaac and Jacob. And then he promises that I will keep you and I will not leave you. Right? He left. Why does that have to be in there? I'm not going to leave you. Jacob, the little son who needs protection, comes now, and God is committed, and I will protect you, and I will not leave you, and I will bring you back here, right? Because that will be ultimately the promise and the proof for Jacob if he will return to his homeland, as God has promised, which means my going will be safe and my coming back will be the proof that God is with me. And therefore I'll be protected, right? So imagine when somebody tells you, I will never leave you. There are many songs on that. Can that commitment be honored forever and ever? We make commitments during our wedding vows that we are going to, for sickness and in death, and for happiness and prosperity and all that, I will be with you. But the promise, I will never leave you, is slightly different. So, can that promise be, what do you think? Can you make that kind of commitment to your loved ones, to somebody? Anyone?
Well, we do make it, but we don't necessarily keep it.
Right. Right. We intend to keep it. We're never going to leave you, but things change in life. Right. And we know the rate of divorces. Also,
Sometimes we don't even make these commitments. Life is short and we cannot predict what's happening. In the terms of God, the span of commitment is different. So we live day to day, and presumably God lives eternity to eternity. So his commitment is different from ours.
and therefore, go back and say, God did not forget his commitment to Abraham. God did not forget his commitment to Isaac. And God is reaffirming that his commitment to Jacob. Like, I didn't leave your grandfather, I didn't leave your father, and I'm not going to leave you, and I will return you here. And how is Jacob's reaction to it? Thank you, hey Marina. Thank you for your comments. So God makes this commitment, and then in verse 16, Vayikatz Yaakov, and Jacob woke up. And Howard, go ahead. I cannot hear you yet.
I'm just thinking possibly that this commitment from God to Moses really is being made because the Torah doesn't actually tell you that how Moses, I mean, he's from the tribe of Levi, but it doesn't show you even what his genealogy is.
Can you come, Howard, can you come a little closer to the mic? I may have, there is like an echo. Thank you.
Sorry. I don't know if this is right or not, but I think that's true that from what I read that the Torah, the Jewish scriptures don't really give Moses' relationship, his genealogy, to tie him, that would tie him directly to Abraham. And so this part might have been put in there where they're doing at least something to strengthen that relationship in order to provide some kind of a link directly from Moses, from Abraham to Moses.
I don't want to touch on Moses because I want to continue, but you said that God's promise to Moses, is that what you're saying? Or the genealogy of Moses not connected to Abraham?
I think it's to strengthen that genealogy because this mostly the book of Genesis is about the Egyptian sources of the Jews and not the people from Babylon.
What's your question?
Not a question, really. It's kind of a speculation that maybe the writers that are putting in here a specific relationship to connect the Egyptian Jew, the northern Jews, with the southern Jews. Northern Jews came from Babylonia, and the southern Jews came from Egypt.
Okay. Okay, I have no issue with that. Thank you for that teaching. I have no issue with that. Okay, I'd like to continue. Okay, Nina?
Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. There is a sentence that says, אין מוקדם ומאוחר בתורה. There is no late or early in the Torah. If we'll take a chapter, it's what it is that we are supposed to get out of it, as far as teaching us, not necessarily right from wrong, but what happened and how the consequences developed.
Okay.
So when I hear, like, when God is praising, it's like he's praising them. They must have done something right through the whole story. That's why I'm saying אין מוקדם ומאוחר בתורה. And it's a good thing, actually, that they go back and they emphasize good stuff that they made up. They cried on each other's shoulder. They love to see each other, but each one went their own way, even though they hugged each other. I like to see, like, take like an account of the positive things that happen, and then maybe the lesson that came out of it was very essential at the moment.
Right.
And that's why the story put it in a certain place where it needed it, or it was rewarded to that person.
Very
So
good.
I like to, when I look at the whole picture, it's like a carpet with the weaving. And I'm happy to see always happy endings, of course, when they hug each other, and I always thinking to myself, why can't it be happening today? And I'm saying, why don't they take lessons today and to take the good moment, took the times where they were walking together, when they hugged each other. And it hurts me to look at the picture of what's happening and look at the picture of what could have been. And it's like, it's difficult to swallow, but this is life, right? Not everything is always going like we wanted to go.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you. Thank you so much for this teaching. Okay, so we'll go on. Hey, Harvey, can you go on, please? We are in verse
16. Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, "Surely the Lord is present in this place, and I did not know it." Shaken, he said, "How awesome is this place! There's none other than the abode of God, and that is the gateway to heaven."
Very good. And by the way, if just so you know, the word how awesome is this place, the word awesome can be interpreted in a positive way, which they did, or in a negative way, that it's how terrible this place is, because it says Norah. Norah can be interpreted, it's a word in Hebrew that can be interpreted that how terrible and fearful and dangerous this place is compared to how awesome the place is. But remember in which way our interpreters are leading us into. I just wanted you to be aware of this.
Did you raise my hand?
Okay, go on. Thank you. This is the gate to heaven.
Okay.
Comes the drama. Verse 18.
Yeah, this is none other than the abode of God, and this is the gateway to heaven. Early in the morning, Jacob took this stone that he had put under his head and set up as a pillar and poured oil on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
He named the site Bethel, but previously the name of the city had been Luz. Jacob then made a vow, saying, "If God remains with me, if he protects me on this journey that I'm making and gives me bread to eat and clothing to wear, and if I return safe to my father's house, the Lord shall be my God."
Excellent. And just that, the stone.
"And this stone which I have set up as a pillar shall be God's abode, and all that you give me I will set aside a tithe for
Okay.
you."
Thank you so much. So this is what is very, very important to kind of focus on, the role of neder, kol nidrei, all my vows. What do you have any trouble with the with the vow that Jacob is making here? Brad?
Yeah, I mean, God has just given him an unconditional promise, and here he's responding with a conditional response. If you do this, then that.
Right. So Jacob, the little son, he's making a commitment to God, really? It's a very conditional. If you do, correctly said by Brad, if you do this, I will do that. If you do this, and what is he saying? If you're going to be with me and keep me, guard me along the path that I'm taking, and if you feed me, and if you clothe me, and if you return me in peace, in other words, not wounded, but you return me in peace to my home, then I will talk about you, and you will be my God. Oh, what is your part? What is your role? What do you do? If you're asking God to do all this, what's left for you? Okay. Mara, go ahead.
So I heard a really interesting drash on the word achen,
Uh-huh.
that that achen doesn't necessarily mean surely, that it actually means I don't to not to listen, but to be aware.
Okay.
And being aware means taking into account what the other person is saying, so that this discussion between Jacob and God and the if-then nature of it is a good example of the need to take into account what the other person says as we make choices.
Very good.
I like that. Thank you for that teaching. That is correct. That achen can be taking into account the other person's values and commitments. But yet, my question still, thank you for that. My question is still remains, when Jacob is making a vow that God will take care of all his needs, what is Jacob's part in this bargaining? What are you planning to do? To believe in God? Is that the proof? I don't have to do anything. God will take care of it. There is a joke about that, right? There is a joke on that says, you might have heard this. A couple gets married, about to get married, and the father of the bride goes to his friend and tells him, I deserve a mazel tov. My daughter is going to get married to a wonderful man, and says, yeah, a wonderful. Tell me about the guy. Well, he when I ask him what he does, he says, I study Torah, and thank God I'm doing well with that. And what are you planning to do for to work? And he says, God willing, everything will be fine. How are you going to take care of my daughter? How are you going to provide for her? God willing, everything will be okay. So the friend says, what, really? He 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 sounds like a very good person. So the father-in-law says, of course, he thinks I'm God. This bargaining, what is your role? What are you going to do? Tachlis, what are you going to do to work this out? So when you make a commitment, did any of you make this kind of a commitment, a vow? A vow, actually, I want to read you that in what our tradition thinks about vows. So in Chulin, in the Mishnah, it says, what is deceit? It's creating, hold on. Yeah. The person who makes a vow places a burden around his neck. It's almost like choking. It is better to do, Nedarim, also from the Mishnah, it is better to do a good deed without making a vow to do it. Right? And then in the Talmud, Jerusalem Talmud, it says, a man comes to Rabbi Judah ben Shalom, asking him to avoid a vow that he had made. So the rabbi asks him, what did you vow not to do? And the man answered, I vowed to make no profit. No profit? How can a person in his right mind vow a thing like that? Asked the rabbi. What I meant, said the man, was that I would no longer make a profit by gambling. Rabbi Judah refused to void the man's vow. So what is the issue here? So a person who makes a vow, he puts a burden around his neck, like that it's hard to carry. What do you think about that comment?
Takes responsibilities, but not necessarily execute the promises.
Right, because sometimes to execute the promise, I see your hand, Howard. Sometimes to execute the promise is like a burden around the neck, like a heavy weight around your neck, because you made a promise, but you can't quite keep it. So what do you do? Right? So thank you for that. Howard? I cannot hear you, Howard. And come close to the mic, please.
I understand that I mean, obviously I never heard of this, nor did I hear of 99.99% of all the commentary, so it's not surprising. But my first reaction is I can understand why the rabbi was trying to make a point about vows, but the logic, and I understand what he's saying, but it's not logical. It doesn't make any sense. Logic only exists in a universe where all facts are modified to make the point that he's trying to make. Otherwise, obviously, if you make a vow, and then later on it turns out he meant when he made the vow not to make that vow, but to make a different vow, and therefore you don't feel you're bound by the original vow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's who you are. The courts would have to decide that, but it's just bad legal language. It just doesn't make sense.
You're correct on that, because what happens here, the man comes to the rabbi to annul his vow, but then he did not add that he made it because of his gambling. He just said, I'm not going to make any profit. And the rabbi was questioning, what do you mean I'm not going to make any profit? Everybody has to make a profit to be able to buy other stuff to live.
Right.
Right. So, but
in Western law, they have a whole, like they have major books written about, in Scalia's book, for example, to try to give you all the rules for how you interpret ambiguous language in law, and gives you logic and gives you rules, but not just somebody just randomly says, oh, well, I didn't mean that, I meant this, so you have to interpret it my way, even though I never gave you a clue before that that's what I'm thinking, or that anyone else would be thinking.
Fern knows well about that, because when you don't have all the information, how can the rabbi know? But when he heard, because he doesn't want to make any more profit from gambling, then the rabbi said, I'm not annulling it because I want to keep that. Otherwise, he'll go back to gambling, right? So no profit on gambling. So, and then, of course, in Nedarim, I have to tell you that the volume on Nedarim, on vows, is one of the biggest volumes in the Talmud. So when they say in there, it is better to do a good deed without making a vow,
Right.
then what do you think about that? Making a good deed without making a vow. It just comes from your heart. It just comes from your nature. It comes from your how you are with your connection to God, right? Make a neder without this list of, if you do this, then I will do that. If you, especially after the war, now that is going on, and it's still going on, many women, when their husbands, or many mothers, when their children are going out to war, make commitments. And I know quite a few variety of my friends in Israel make commitment, makes a vow that I will light, if my son returns a whole, in whole, you can question what a whole is, if it's only physical or also emotional. So when my son returns from the war, I make a commitment, I would light Shabbat candles every Friday. Or I will say Tehillim, I will say Psalms every morning. People make commitments because they have that emotional need to be protected, to be saved, to come back to the same moment when the son left the house. May he come back in safety. The same thing that Jacob is asking God. These mothers, these friends of mine, make these kind of commitments to be reassured that their loved ones will come back. Mm-hmm. And very tough, because what happens, I hosted one of my friends while her son was away in the army. I hosted her here at home, and she said, at the end of the day, she said, "Oh my God, I didn't say the psalm that I promised, that I made a vow to. I have to take time to say it." No problem. But there is like a burden upon your neck to say it every day. You have to remember it. And what happens if you forget to say psalms on one day? You understand? So I released her, and I say, you can say 2 psalms the next day. I released her from that burden of being able to say, I cannot do it. I have to do it now. So vows are something very, very, very important, and we take it very seriously. As I said, it's one of the biggest volumes of the Talmud, is Nedarim, which means vows. And oh my God, it's 1 minute left. I hope that each and every one of us will not make vows, but do good deeds, because your heart desires to connect with God and with other people around you on the good. And I do remember that one time when I gave a teaching, and I said, just imagine that each one of us is like Tinkerbell, Peter Pan's Tinkerbell. When she steps, every step, she throws sparkles around her. Imagine yourself throwing sparkles of goodness around the people that you encounter. And you don't have to make a vow to make it happen. May it be so. Amen. Thank you so much for your teachings and your connections.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. And I'd like to say the Kaddish. And if anybody first would like to remember somebody that in your life, who would you like to mention their name? Okay, so I would like to mention the names of those who passed away this past month in Wilshire congregation is David Frischling, Jacob Greek Voyage, Charles Levine, Dariush Danish Moghadam, Gerald Steiner, and Maurice or Mickey Wiseman. And I'd like to say, and those who are commemorating somebody, I will say, יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה, בעולמה דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביום יכון, ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולמי עולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקדושה. לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעולמה, ואם אמן. יהא שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום
עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. May God bless you.
Thank you.